Today, I want to talk about how to efficiently draw your bow back. The way that you can draw your bow back with the most ease, so that way you can shoot either more draw weight, or more importantly, be in more control of your shot. And when you're in more control, that means you should be more accurate as well. So what I'm going to talk about in this video is showing you how to efficiently move through the shot, how to efficiently draw the bow back, or at least how to potentially do it in a more effective manner so you expend less energy to do the same amount of work. This is not exclusive to any style of shooting. It's not exclusive to any form base. You know, even though I'm proficient in the KSL shot cycle or the NTS system, that doesn't mean that this is only exclusive to this style. People that come to me for coaching and ask me for advice and, you know, ultimately just come to me to try to be a better archer, I never profess to them or push on them a given method. I just try to share with them how to get better with what they've already got. And many people that I have worked with, doesn't matter the style of shooting, could be traditional, bare bow, or recurve. Compound's a little different because of the way you have to draw the bow back due to the cams, but single string bows, they all benefit, even if they're not using my coach's style that has coached me that I shoot, they still benefit from this method of using the body in a particular way to draw this bow back to make it much easier for them. So that way they can have way more control, shake less, and ultimately just be more consistent and confident in their shooting ability. So traditionally and typically, most people will think, okay, I have a grip and I have a string. These are my two connection points on the bow. These are the two things that I touch, right? So it is natural and obvious. I'm going to control the bow with this hand and this side, and I'm going to control the string and how far I draw it back with this side and using my hand. Unfortunately, especially once you're, past the youth stage, because if I give a bow to a youth, actually, they draw the bow back pretty naturally, and they do this efficiently. But once you get, years under your belt and you're a big, strong individual human, you're going to pull back the bow with the string, and a lot of people will pull back like this, more linear in fashion. Not necessarily a bad thing. This is not a knock at all on the linear shot style, because I think it's totally fine and it works great for many people out there. It's won plenty of Olympic medals, including gold ones, so it's a good method to use. That's a fact. But what is the typical draw cycle is most people will pull with the hand and they pull back in a pretty straight line. And you'll see I typically am using a little bit more bicep this way, and it's not very efficient. I'm actually starting to get tired already. Even though this bow is pretty light, drawing with my hand, I'm pulling the bow back on purpose using my hand. And it just doesn't really give a good, strong, natural feel to it. From this angle, pulling with my hand, it's pretty inefficient. This bow, I think these are 22-pound limbs or something like that. Very light. This is my wife's bow. So it should be very easy for me to draw back. But when I'm drawing back with the hand on the string, it's just not as easy as it should be. I wish you were here, so that way I could say use this to pull the bow back, because it's difficult to convey through a lens. But what you should be pulling the bow back with is not your string hand, it's actually your shoulder. Using your shoulder to pull the bow back. And it's not necessarily changing the direction or how you pull the bow back or changing what it looks like, but internally, where you pull from can make a huge difference, not only in the amount of energy you're outputting to draw this bow back, but it just feels like the first time I learned how to do it, it was freeing. It was a moment of, this is almost cheating because it's so easy to pull the bow back. And many people that I do coach, they feel that same way or make that same statement unprovoked, something that I don't ask them. So if I use on the shoulder to draw instead of the hand, even though the hand is the connection you want to just let that kind of go loose and pull from the shoulder, no matter the style of how you're pulling, whether that be angular or linear or anything like that, or even if it's not on purpose, just drawing naturally. It would be almost using the letter J here in Jake, or the full name in Jake, on the back side of the shoulder. And it's very difficult for me to explain again through this camera lens, but if I were to be there and be able to touch you right here on the shoulder and tap you there as you're drawing the bow back, you'd know exactly where I'm talking to pull from. If I lead with the shoulder and actually pull back here and not pull back here, it will be much more efficient and a lot more natural. So from the shoulder, it looks a little bit more like this, pulling from the shoulder. So I'll give you a couple different views, pulling from the shoulder, and I'm using my back muscles this way a lot more, which are a lot stronger and a lot more efficient and effective at pulling the bow back compared to the arm. So again, I'm just focusing on pulling and leading here. This does the work, not this. And it just moves around and behind me, pulls around and behind me. Even if you're using a linear shot style, you know, you set up and it's very, very linear in the way that you draw, that shoulder's still moving around and behind you. It's not moving back in a straight line. So if you think of leading with the shoulder and not necessarily leading with the hand, again, it gets you more efficiency. And I'm less tired. My arm's not fatigued already. And I've, you know, pulled the bow back the second time around using the shoulder, even though I was already fatigued with the arm. So again, this is leading with the hand, pulling back more with the string, as opposed to pulling back more with the shoulder. It's a slight change, and it makes a very big difference. Now, how you can do it at home, if you have a helpful partner, somebody who can gently touch you right here as you are going to pick up your bow. You have your hand, your hook and grip set, you're ready to go with an arrow. But as you start to lift the bow and right before you go to pull back, it's very helpful if you have somebody tap you here. Use that tapping sensation and pull with that. That's also what you use to set the clicker off as well, by the way. Or can, in my opinion, that's how I would do it. You lead with the shoulder when they tap you. If you don't have a partner at home or at your range, you could potentially stretch like this, and you might feel a stretch right here. That's where I feel it. And then you can think, okay, use this stretch to pull the bow back, and use that area that you feel that stretch in the posterior deltoid area. This is what Coach Lee is professing and says what this spot is called is land 2. It's not a real medical term. It doesn't exist anywhere in the literature. Land 1 is in the front. That does exist in medical journal literature. But he said, okay, if this is land 1, well then this is land 2, because there's no name for a spot back here. But if you just use the term of posterior deltoid, the backside of your shoulder, things like that, that is proper and just fine. So all you need to do is think about drawing with the shoulder to pull the bow back, and you'll feel a lot more efficiency. Pulling this bow back will feel much easier, and if you choose to, you could go up in some bow weight if you really wanted to, but I think the advantage to doing that and leading with the shoulder is ultimately just being more efficient. More efficiently means less energy expended. Less energy expended means you have more energy later on in a tournament, and potentially more control of your shot, most importantly, which should result in more accuracy.